Good morning, rock and metal fans. Welcome to Iridium Rock and Metal Review. So, we're going to go back to ranking the year. So, albums. We're at 2008 now. So we're really closing in on this part of the show, if you like. So, I don't want to really let it run out this one, so that's why I'm trying to do as much other stuff as possible. But we are up to 2008, so we got to close it out. So this was a pretty good year actually. I struggled in 2007 to find too many albums that really grabbed me. 2008, not too bad. A lot of variation again. Some unknown, well, not unknown bands, but some bands that some of you guys might not have heard. So hopefully I can, suggest some, and you can get into those bands just like you guys have suggested bands to me, and it's great. New music, brilliant. So I've got 10, actual 10, which is really good. So we're going to go from 10 to 1. There's a couple of honourable mentions as well. Not that many, but there is some. So my number 10, without further ado, number 10. So Voodoo Circle, their self-titled debut album. So they're a German band, Voodoo Circle, and the guitarist done a bit of work with Primal Fear, and this band, they've got a real classic rock sound. So I suppose you could liken them to, I want to give you an idea of what you can liken the band to. Bands you've heard of, you're talking like Whitesnake, Rainbow, stuff like that. So it's a guitarist who used to work with Primal Fear. The singer, Pink Cream 69, if you've heard of them. So, but they're a real classic sounding band. They even got more Whitesnake influenced as they've gone on in their catalogue, but this first album, not so much. But if you like a good guitarist, this guy, Alex, but let me say his name right, Alex Beirutz. Sorry if I got that wrong, but he's a really good guitarist. You've got to hear this. This is a real guitar album, this one. Even though the songs are great as well, but the guitar is right up front, main and centre on this one. So, good album, and I'll give Voodoo Circle's debut album 7 out of 10. Right, my number 9. I'm going to go to AOR stuff now. This is real proper AOR stuff. So if you're into bands like Toto, FM, Journey, that sort of stuff, work of art, and their debut album, Artwork. So they're a Swedish band, Sweden again. Well, Sweden produces some great bands, and they are, like I said before, proper top-down summer music, absolutely superb, full of style. This band, really catchy stuff. I really would go on to more of the Toto side, but heavier Toto stuff. Some of the standout tracks on here: Why Do I, Cover Me, The Great Fall. This album's full up with great tracks, real good AOR stuff, real melodic, catchy. I'll give Work of Art, Artwork, 7 out of 10 also. Right, number 8, another Swedish band, Heat, and their debut album called Heat. And this is again a bit more along the melodic hard rock side, still a bit of AOR in there. They've actually done a few changes to the band since the debut album, but this was a great introduction to the band. They're one of my favourite bands now. The stuff they release now is absolutely fantastic. But this was good also, really good for a debut album. Some of the standout tracks in here: There For You, Keep On Dreaming, Never Let Go. They're a bit like if I could liken them to anyone, it'd be Europe, the better side of Bon Jovi. When Bon Jovi were back in the 80s, were a good band. But also give Heat 7 out of 10. Right, number 7, Iced Earth, The Crucible of Man. So I'm a real Iced Earth fan. I absolutely love Iced Earth. I think they're a brilliant band. This was one of the weaker albums of theirs, but they're such a good band. They still made it into this top 10 for me. This is Matt Barlow came back, who has been the mainstay vocalist until recently of Iced Earth. He had a bit of a break, and then he's come back for this album, and he hasn't been back since. They got another Stu Block as their new vocalist. but he came back for this one, and this was the sequel, if you like, or the second part to Something Wicked Part 1. So this is Something Wicked Part 2, The Crucible of Man. Even though it's not the strongest Iced Earth album, it's still up there because they're such a good band. Some of the standout tracks on here for me: Behold the Wicked Child, A Gift or a Curse is a good one, like a slower song. Iced Earth do slow songs so good. I Walk Alone, you know, it is still a great album, you know, even though it's not right up there with some of their catalogue, but it's still a great album. And I'll give Iced Earth, The Crucible of Man, 8 out of 10. Right, next. This band had always like a project, had a few years off. They've come back with a couple of albums in a row. This is the first of them. This is The Scarecrow by Avantasia. So with Avantasia, when they hit the notes, they're brilliant. You know, I know it's meant to be like a rock opera, but that opera side of it on their albums, I'm not so keen on. I like the more straightforward stuff they do, and they do plenty of it on this album. These next two albums are the favourite ones for me from Avantasia. There's some great guest vocalists, as there always is on this. Jean Londet, mentioning him again, he's on this. Michael Kiske, Helloween, or ex-Helloween, he's on this as well. But like I said, the more straightforward songs are the ones that really get me. Twisted Mind is good. Carry Me Over is a great song. But the standout track on here, and you've got to hear this, is The Scarecrow. So it is absolutely fantastic song. I think it's about 8 or 9 minutes long. Jean Londet, one of his best vocal performances on here as well. To hear him on this is fantastic. And catch this one live. There's a few really good live performances on YouTube if you want to catch that as well. Absolutely fantastic song, The Scarecrow. You've got to hear it. I mean, if you like a bit of Maiden, you know, and he's definitely right up there with that sort of thing. Real epic stuff. And I'll give The Scarecrow 8 out of 10. Right, number 5. Bit of a difference in direction of music here. So Blackstone Cherry, Folklore and Superstition. So this is a great album. Could be the best in the catalogue. Maybe the next album matches it, is a little bit better, but this was full up with some real classic stuff. Southern heavy rock, if not, or heavy metal. Southern heavy metal, definitely, because they really do pull it out of the bag when it comes to heaviness sometimes. But when their favourite songs for me, when they really slow it down into these southern ballads, absolutely superb. Some of the standout tracks on here: Blind Man, Things My Father Said. What a real sad song. Well, sort of uplifting but sad at the same time, talking about missing his dad and how the guy was, you know, brought up by his dad. You is another slow song which I love. Reverend Wrinkle is a great rocker. You know, this band were really great, and sadly for me they sort of lost their southernness and went more bluesy later on in their discography. I prefer this. I really do prefer their southern side. And Folklore and Superstition I also give 8 out of 10. So number 4, one of my favourite vocalists. I always talk about him. If you're into Dio, if you're into Coverdale and that sort of strong, powerful voice, and that's Jean, and Lonely Are the Brave. So apart from his work with Avantasia, he brought a solo album out, and you know, he's so consistent. He's so consistent, his albums, and the title track is a classic, an absolute classic. Lonely Are the Brave. Shadow People is a good song, real Dio sounding on that. War of the World is a brilliant epic track. So yeah, Jean, Lonely Are the Brave. Can't say enough about the guy. 8 out of 10. Right, next is one of my favourite newer sort of bands. This was about their third album actually, and I think that this is where they really started to get into their stride of what they're going to sound like when they, you know, with their future albums. And that's Eclipse and Are You Ready to Rock? So yeah, this is a great rocking album. They really know how to put melody into their songs. The vocalist is outstanding. Eric Martinson plays the guitar as well. Magnus Henriksson, who's the main guitarist, superb. Another Swedish band. You know what I mean? Sweden must be something in the water out there, because they are really producing some great bands. some of my favourite ones on here. Breaking My Heart Again kicks the album off. Real rocker. Excellent. They sort of do real catchy arena rock as well. To Mend a Broken Heart and Unbreakable on here are the standout tracks. Real catchy. If you haven't heard Eclipse, they are one of the best bands around at the moment. It's talented guys. Really put real melody into their music. They are fantastic. I'll give Eclipse Are You Ready to Rock 9 out of 10. And they had a lot better to come as well. Believe me, this was a really good album, but they really got into their stride even more later on in their career. Right, number 2, another one of my favourite all-time bands from the 80s, a real return to form, Tesla, Forevermore. I couldn't stop listening to this album when it came out. I know that they brought out an album for this, Into the Now, which I liked, but this really went back to their roots, this one. And some great tracks on here. Forevermore was excellent. So What, Private Ledbetter, an excellent song about a soldier losing his life, and a letter comes home to his mum and stuff. It's brilliant, absolutely brilliant track. But one of my favourite tracks on here is a bit of a deeper cut, I suppose, bit of a lesser known Tesla song, and that's Breaking Free. I don't know what it is about that song. The verses especially really grabbed me. Excellent return to form from Tesla. And I'll give Forevermore 9.5 out of 10. Just a couple of tracks, you know, that weren't so top notch for Tesla, but I think where it is, Tesla, you know, you expect so much from them because they're so good. You know, they are just one of the best bands out there. My number 1, a real brilliant return for Journey and Revelation. So they obviously, Steve Perry, as you all know, was the main vocalist for years and years and years. They tried out a couple of other vocalists through that time as well, but then Arnel Pineda Pineda came into the, sorry, I'm really bad at pronouncing names. He came in, plucked off of YouTube apparently. So the guitarist of Journey was looking at, or the band were looking at trying to find a vocalist, and they actually found this guy singing some Journey songs in a cover band or doing some Journey covers in a pub on an old YouTube video. I mean, well, what a story. Do you know what I mean? Can you imagine being in a band and doing songs of the band you love, and then oh, it's just, I can't imagine it. And what a brilliant vocalist. Obviously, he's really close to Steve Perry's sound, especially on this album. He got more of his own character, I suppose, later on in a couple of other albums, or the next album, I mean. But this was classic Journey. Exactly what fans want to hear from them. I absolutely love it. Never Walk Away is a great song to start with. Really brings you back to the 80s Journey. Like a Sunflower as well. Really reminds me of Lights, the song Lights, off an old Journey album. After all these years, a classic ballad. And they also did a absolutely great rendition of Faith in the Heartland. Didn't change it too much. This was from the Generations album, where I can't remember who the vocalist was. I think it's Steve Algeri or Algeri. But what an excellent song that is as well. This album, you know, you could have plucked any song, it'd have been a hit. What a return to form for Journey. Absolutely revitalised the band, like it does so many times when you get a new vocalist in, you know, or a new member. And I'll give Journey Revelation 10 out of 10. So that's my list for 2008. I think it was 2008. Yes, it was. I did notice as I'm going through trying to look back, because I don't want to forget anything obviously, and as I go back and look at the releases, if you go on to metal releases in 2008 on Wiki, hardly any of these bands that I've mentioned are on it. It's all like extreme metal now. You know, that's how people look at metal now. It's a bit strange, you know, because obviously as the lists I've been looking each year, I've noticed that the lists, so all these melodic rock bands and metal bands slowly drop off, and it's all extreme metal. So then I have to go to 3 or 4 different lists, you know, on the internet to make sure I don't miss anything. But it's a bit strange how people don't perceive hardly any of these bands anymore as metal. you know. Hardly any of them appeared on that list, so it's a bit strange, a bit of a shame really. Yeah, it's all metal, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? So anyway, thanks for listening. Please tell me if I've missed anything off of 2008 that you like. You know, maybe suggest some stuff. You obviously know the stuff that I like now, so suggest some reactions maybe I could do from 2008 that I haven't heard. Hopefully I've covered everything. Oh, shit, just a quick honourable mentions, just saying what they are. Dokken, Lightning Strikes Again, pretty good album, didn't quite make my list. Shinedown, The Sound of Madness. With Shinedown, I really like a lot of their like some of their tracks off an album, not all of them. That's why it's not consistent enough for me. Starbreaker, Love's Dying Wish. That was great as well. That's Tony Harnell of TNT or ex-TNT singing on that one. That's a great album, but just nearly made the list, but not quite. Right, cheers. Thanks for listening. See you again.